It's Chris. You heard it right here first. September 2023, easily the biggest crowdfunding month of the year. This may be one of the biggest crowdfunding months ever. And, you know, I'm not saying that just to hype you up, but I was counting before the video. 24 games that I could mention to you that have had good success or significantly better, or things that are just going to get significant brand recognition launching this month. This is insane. Usually it's been very top heavy, right? You have 3 or 5 games. Nope. They're not going top heavy. They're going deep. And that is why I'm going to run you through as many as I can in as short amount of time as possible. Help you figure out how you're going to budget this month. It's going to be freaking crazy. Let's go. You ready? You hyped? Can you handle the hype? You can't handle the hype. Let's do this. So what do we got first up? Well, you know, let's talk about it right here behind me. Mythic Mischief Season 2. We're getting more teams. Now, I have a prototype copy. I'm not supposed to be telling you much about it, but there's approximately a couple teams that are going to be coming out there. I can't say anything else officially. There's some surprises. There's some embargoed stuff. But you know what? My spoilers will be out on the day it launches. Spoilers! There's a reason that this game did so well the first time around. This is from IV Studios. They put out a premium product. This is an abstract with a very nice thematic dressing over top. And, you know, as an abstract lover, I was a little bit torn on this one first off, because some of the teams from the original version did not click, but some of the teams did click. And so there are a couple teams in this one that did click as well. And that's why when I pulled this game out, I said, oh, this is why I kept this in my collection. This is why I love this game. And so this is just going to be adding more of a good thing. I'll tell you right now, it's not adding anything overly complicated. It's not adding anything that's going to take it, you know, all of a sudden it's going to jump the shark. Nope, nope, nope. And you're really going to like the surprise embargo thing I'm not allowed to tell you about. Again, not hyping for hype, but hyping because it's actually something practically useful. A practical use of something. Not just superfluous fluff add-on. If you know me, I hate the superfluous fluff add-on. Try and say that 10 times fast. I dare you. So that's why it's number 1. Now, number 2, we're not going that far. We're not going a far departure from things I played before. Because also, 2 weeks later after that launches, then we have the sequel expansion to Beast. Now, I'm not sure exactly if this is a standalone or if this is going to be, you know, need the base game. I think it's the latter of those two, but Beast, one versus all. Hidden creature, hidden movement versus hunters. Boom to boom. It's a divisive. Some people love it, some people hate it. I really like it as a one versus all game. Shattered Isles is going to offer us more of what they've got going on, just like Mythic Mischief is going to do, right? More of a good thing. Now, the question is, again, I don't have the details yet. I'm going to be having a prototype copy on that one as well, so I will have some details. It's going to be close of whether or not I can get it out before the campaign or not. So stay tuned if you're interested, because, you know, there are some cool monsters there. You know, the balance, though, is the biggest issue, and especially with a second season, right? With anything like this, anything like that, you got to worry about power creep, right? You know, Marvel Champions, there was a comment on the Reddit forums the other day about, you know, if Marvel Champions, the new ones from X-Force, are going to be outbalanced and overpowered compared to some of the previous stuff, right? And sometimes it matters and sometimes it doesn't. Is this one of those that matters? I don't really know. As long as they're all overpowered equally in a different way, I don't really care, because the artwork's also freaking awesome. And that's going to be over on Game Found. So speaking of that, though, let's stay with the theme here. GameFound is also getting the most recent, the newest arrival in the lands of Red Raven Games, and that's Creature Caravan, an engine building light in the style of their other previous worlds. And so I'm not really sure what to expect with this one. The forums are full of people playtesting and scoring and balancing, but there's not a whole lot of details on the actual game itself. I mean, basically the concept is you're building a card tableau of creatures, traveling through a dangerous land, simultaneously placing dice on the actions on your card. So it's got sort of a little bit of a dice worker placement. And so, you know, I'm a sucker for engine building. I am slowly developing my dice worker placement skills. And when one person reaches the end, then the person with the most points wins. And 134 cards, each unique. So that's kind of cool. And as someone who does not own any Red Raven games, very similar to, until very recently, Stonemaier, I got a copy of Expeditions, guys. I am looking at this game as the first one that's actually going to stay in my collection. I've owned a couple of the other ones, but they've never really, you know, hit home for me. And so also, in a way, just like the Garfield games, I'm looking to dabble, I'm looking to dip my toe into this, but you know what? It's kind of hard to find the right one for you. And so that's going to be the question. Is it going to be, you know, a big hit, or is it going to be a little bit of Wayfarers of the South Tigers for me, which was a hit, but also not a hit I was going to keep in my collection? And that, nowadays, folks, is the big difference in terms of things. Now, next up, again, no date on this one, but Terraforming Mars. Back to crowdfunding? Yeah, we're going back to crowdfunding because why not? They haven't sold enough at retail to support it, so we have to go and get the Prelude expansion number 2. Now, if anything needs a Prelude expansion, I can think of another few games that could really use that instead of this game, but as the sole expansion that people routinely and almost unanimously recommend for Terraforming Mars in the first place, even if you only have the base game and you've never played it, that is what they're trying to do with that, is they're going, well, you want more of a good thing in terms of the Prelude and streamlining and, you know, getting you to play it faster and taking out some of the boring parts. Well, maybe you should just not include the boring parts in the first place. Just kidding. I mean, that game's been out. You can't modify things after it's been out, but they're trying to do it in the form of an expansion. So what is it going to entail? What are the details? No idea. Is it going to be a replace Prelude 1? Is it going to be an alternating Prelude 1? That was the question with Wonderland's War. When Wonderland's War came out, you know, they had this alternate deck, and I thought this deck was going to be in addition. Nope, it's substituting out one thing for another, and that is the reason I didn't back it, because I didn't really want something to be substituted. I wanted something new because it just lacked the full, just needs a little bit more sort of thing. And I'm going to make the argument that, you know, Terraforming Mars already has enough of the so much stuff, and so I could see it sort of straddling the fence there as well, but no details, but guaranteed that thing's going to make a bunch of money. It's just going to be a question of, just like with some of the previous campaigns, what's the quality control? Because some of the big box stuff and some of the terrain stuff I heard was not the best quality control wise, as well as, you know, what's the real incentive to get it on crowdfunding? Are you going to give me half a dozen promos? Well, you know, if you've already got 2 or 3 expansions, what's half a dozen promos in the scheme of things? Nothing. So don't get it if it's only that. Next up, later in the month as well, we have from Outlandish Games, and they did Block by Block, the 3rd edition, and we're going back to Defenders of the Wild. Again, I'm going to have a hands-on copy, so I'm going to have some hands-on thoughts on it before the time of the campaign, and you're playing as one of 4 asymmetric unique animal factions, taking on sort of a cooperative version of Root, if you will. Less war game, more cooperative, you know, pandemic, and you're going up against a corrupt army of machines utilizing magic that are rampaging across. So if that doesn't tickle some bells and some keywords there, I don't know what's going to. I mean, it sort of has a Spirit Island type vibe where you're defending the land against these evil machinations of literal machines, building your camps, revolting, trying to get the factories to be destroyed, all of that sort of stuff. And so that is just an incredibly intriguing concept for me. You know, I love hard co-ops. You know, I love this style of game. And so I can't wait to actually see what it has in store for us when it launches. Staying on the cooperative train, haha, see what I did there? Vagrantsong coming this month as well. Cooperative. Now, this only has 3 of the potentially 18 plus scenarios that are going to be going along in the expansion as a whole, but there's going to be a lot more new stuff, new mechanics, new content, and almost as much content as the base game in the first place. Now, this is not standalone, so you have to have the base game, but this is going to give more life and more legs to that if you've already finished it from a cooperative standpoint. Doing something completely different in the dungeon crawl thematic incorporation of things, not only with some really awesome colored standees, but as well as the not just kill everything in sight sort of objectives, quests, and scenarios that you have, and an ongoing scenario driven level system that, you know, you're going to upgrade your base camp, you're going to upgrade your characters, you're going to upgrade your skills, and you're going to just get better as you go along, potentially, if you're good at it. If you're not good at it, well, I'm sorry, this one's probably not going to make it any easier. But Weird Games had a huge hit with the first one, and you know what, I'd like to say I'm surprised that they're going on crowdfunding and Kickstarter, but at the same time I'm not, given the benefits of doing it at this point. So I can't wait to see what they have in store, and you know, I'll be covering it, you know, I'll be looking at it and hyping it because it's a freaking sweet game. So if you like more of it, there you go. The other one that's going to get head-to-head comparisons, that's going to be launching a little earlier in the month, that is probably going to be a little bit harder overall, just based on what I've seen already and the copy sitting next to me. It's Flock Together. Seacow is going to give us a game that is allowing you to take 2 of several different actions, up to 8 different actions per turn, and allowing you to manage levels, manage your leveling up as you're battling predators, gaining loot drops, traveling, and adverse weather conditions, and dealing with that all at the same time. And you're just trying to defeat 10 unique different predators that are going to be brought your way. And so this is going to, again, this is a great month. This is a great month for cooperative. You heard me talk about Peacemaker's Horrors of War last month. That was a huge surprise hit as well. So, you know, if we have this trend, I mean, I love seeing this hard co-ops with a theme, with just, you know, more than just the forbidden jungles of the world. Because, I mean, that was the other one that was on my radar at retail this past month, and it's sort of not necessarily getting the, you know, best forbidden seal from anybody right now. And so I'm looking for something a little bit better than that overall. And both of these are going to strike my fancy, hopefully. And if you're anything like me, well, then there you go, and you should check these out as well. when I actually talk about them. If you're not subscribed already, subscribe! Speaking of that, we're going right along with that as well, staying with the cooperative theme, and we get the remake of sort of the Warhammer Quest saga, and we're getting the Heroes of Terranoth, because what we're getting now in place of that is Dragonbond Quest from the previous Dragonbond Lords of Vala, and we're getting that thematic incorporation. I believe it's using the Saddler Builders same system, but sort of a different theme overall. And so what we're going to have is a cooperative game in that card-based setting. Now, the interesting thing is they've said there's not going to be any plan for expansions or additional content. It's just going to be a base game on the crowdfunding campaign. And that was sort of the thing with both of those other games that were the predecessors of this system in the first place, that they didn't really get a whole lot of support, especially the Heroes of Terranoth, which is just the base game before it was just sort of axed off at retail, and, you know, could have been a lot more, but was just sort of the samey after a couple rounds, and, you know, you didn't have a lot of legs to stand on with just the base game alone, which is sad and unfortunate. But hopefully this is going to get more support. It's just not going to necessarily be in this campaign. So that's what you're going to have to make a gamble on, is, you know, if this really appeals to you, especially if you were a fan of one of the other ones, is this one to get more support, and can you bank on that, and are you willing to put your money to bank on that? Speaking of solo games, I wasn't, but let's go over, because now we have also Final Girl. Do you have enough Final Girl? Final Girl for me is like the solo equivalent of Marvel United, right? Like, can't ever have enough Marvel United. I'm serious about that. I'm gonna buy the Spider-Geddon one that comes out later this fall. That's not included with the crowdfunding campaign at all. But we're getting a new season of Final Girl. Do you need more Final Girl? I mean, arguments are gonna say no. Are you gonna get it all? And is it gonna raise, you know, $500 million? Yeah, I mean, it's gonna raise a ton of money. And people really like it as a horror-based solo, you know, escape the mad chomping killer with, you know, whatever thematic incorporation and unique mechanics. Now, I've never played it. I'm not a solo person, but people really seem to like it, and people are really getting a lot of it. Again, sort of very, very similar to Marvel United. And I've seen people piece it out. I've seen people keep it all and said, you know, I'm just going to do it. And you know what? To each their own. But season 3, right? Can you imagine if they did a season 4 of Marvel United? Haha, they will. Don't worry. Maybe it'll be DC United if we're lucky. But there you go. So speaking of solo games, primarily solo games, although this one is not primarily solo because it technically can be played with more than one person, we are also getting a reprint of Isofarian Guard. I mean, this is a 1 to 2 player game, and this is a solo co-op narrative-driven, sort of crawl-esque campaign style game with hand management and sort of some building mechanisms. I mean, people seem to like it. It's one of the biggest boxes you've ever seen on crowdfunding, not named Haven or something Haven, right? So, I mean, is bigger better? Do you need more narrative campaign games? I mean, that's the only concern I have, right? And I guess I kind of like the fact that it's a 1 to 2 player, because all the other campaign games, you know, you're primarily, except for the Havens necessarily, having to manage more than one character. If you're, especially at the lower player counts overall, like if you only have 1 or 2 people, are you having to constantly manage 3 or 4 characters in the game? And that gets a little old. It gets a little annoying. You know, I'll stay flat out and Trust Us Odyssey. That's my biggest critique of it as a whole. You know, as a solo player playing that game, or even as a 2-player game, you know, having to manage more than one character, especially someone that's not used to that game nearly as much, you know, it makes it a little bit more of a slog. And so having a 1 to 2 player count is obviously a little bit nice. It's got a 9.0 rating on Board Game Geek right now, so people really like it. But I mean, that's also probably a big selection bias, confirmation bias going on there too. So does it need a reprint? I mean, it's not going to wide retail. It's not going to wide distribution because, again, price point, right? So that's the biggest make it or break it. And they threw in a bunch of extra stuff. I think they made a whole bunch of more stuff on top of it to make it even bigger after the campaign. So I think they fluffed it up a little bit, sort of like Black Rose Wars did. But, you know, do you need more of that? I mean, again, as one of the biggest narrative campaign games to probably come out in the last year, not named like Kingdom Death or Aeon Trespass, that's a lot. And especially because people haven't had it even like 6 months. And again, I guess you want to strike while the iron is hot. I guess you want to do similar to what Guards of Atlantis did as well. But I can see it doing similarly to Guards of Atlantis in the sense that, you know, I don't think it's going to get the millions and millions of dollars like some of the other ones do, because it's a little bit lower in the player count. And because, again, the niche within a niche that's going for that is just not as large overall. But we're going to see, because I'm always wrong on these things anyway. So it's nice to get your popcorn ready and watch when it explodes, baby. Now, you've heard this name before, Hoplomachus, and because we like talking about chip theory as well, Hoplomachus is apparently going to get a big box, a Pandora's big box in some way, shape, or form. Again, details are very sparse at this time, but this is supposed to be potentially launching this month, and it's been a couple months since we've seen anything from chip theory. I believe the last one was Elder Scrolls, so they usually do a couple campaigns a year, and, you know, if you F5 enough, you can get some strategic pledges, you know, all 3 of them that become available, and, you know, people that use bots to get them in the first place. But, you know, if you don't want to get that, and you just want to get a little bit of a price point for something that they're going to put out, and if you have all the other Hoplomachus Hoplomachus stuff, especially the newer stuff, the remastered version, as well as Victorum. That was their last campaign with Hoplomachus. I mean, how is this going to compare? What is it going to add? What's it going to do? And I mean, people seem to like it, but they also say routinely and across the board that this remastered version, as well as Victorum, supremely make the other ones obsolete. So if you have a first edition around, it's not really getting a whole lot of traction in the secondary market from when I've seen people trying to sell it, which is fine. I mean, but it does sort of, you know, kind of leave a bad taste if you're some of the first time around people. Not too much though, you know, let's not yuck on other people's yum, right? So you can still just play the first edition just fine. So there's no issue with it from that side of things whatsoever. Now, if you didn't know better, I would say that this is a joke and this is like an April Fool's sort of thing, but there's going to be a Smurf miniature game launching apparently sometime this month. And again, sort of like the Worms board game from this past month, like no details, right? And I think it's miniature based even. So it's cooperative. I don't know. I mean, you know, we're starting to branch away further and further. Like, I am always firmly in the gameplay wins over thematic incorporation side of things from day 1, day 2, day 3, right? Like, that is the most important thing to me across the board. Like, how is the gameplay? But like, there's certain themes that also will turn me off more than others and are harder for me to look at in general. And so Smurfs, I won't lie, is probably going to be one of them. I mean, my kids are actually, my 9-year-old really likes watching it on Netflix right now. But apart from that, it has absolutely no appeal to me. So it's going to have to do something really tremendous from a gameplay standpoint, especially if it is more of a cooperative game, and especially compared to the other ones that I've already mentioned on this video, right? I don't care about miniatures, especially with my cooperative games. I don't need that price point. And so what is this going to do? What is this going to entail? Like, how nostalgia driven is this going to be? Just like I talked about with Worms last week, you know, this is starting to get outside of that. Is it going to be more of the He-Man where, you know, Simon thought that this He-Man thing was going to be absolutely huge nostalgia. And I think it kind of fell a little bit flatter than they were thinking. Now, granted, I'm not saying it did bad, but again, expectations versus actuality, that is where sometimes the disappointment is. And that's what I wonder with something like this. I don't even know what an IP like this is going to cost compared to something else. Again, speaking of failed expectations, a little bit with Call of Duty that Arcane Wonders just ended last month. So that one's also going to be an interesting test of things. From R2I Games, Road to Infamy Games, the makers of Canvas as well as Globetrotting, we are going to see a new game coming from them, more of the worker placement style of things. Did you ever want to know what old cheese tastes like? Yeah, we're doing Fromage. Fromage as an homage to that side of the food industry. Yeah, we're going back to 20th century French cheese making, and that's what you're doing. You're making, aging, and selling your cheese. Worker placement, right? Right? I'm intrigued. Speaking of thematic incorporations that totally, you know, left field. That one, do you know where the left field a metaphor? Do you know where the left field metaphor comes from, by the way? Actually, you know, Wrigley Field, as a sold side note here, actually had an insane asylum behind left field when it was originally made. And so when people would say they're going out to left field, meaning they're going out to the insane asylum. And that's actually where that comes from, in case you were wondering. But we're talking about ancient cheeses here, not ancient ways to lobotomize people. And so what you're getting in this is a simultaneous, that's the intriguing standpoint, worker placement game where you place your workers, make the cheese, and gather your resources. And everyone does their placement, and then the board rotates and it changes, and what's in front of you is going to be different. And I believe that per the images that are on Board Game Geek, there's going to be four different sections, and those 4 different sections are going to have different actions and different resources available, and you're going to have to sort of manage when it comes around you and when you take it and what you're doing on a turn-by-turn basis, because like I said, you're simultaneously laying, which is actually kind of nice, because then you're potentially looking at a lot shorter game length, and a game like this could be otherwise like a 2+ hour game. So we'll see what Road to Infamy has in store for us. Let's go back to solo games for a minute over on GameFound. And because we're talking about a game that sort of flew under the radar, got a little bit of hype, especially from like the Dice Tower. I think it was like Z that maybe talked about this one. But this is Unreliable Wizard. This finally got a launch date here in September. And this is a solo game where you're just a wizard that's going to be upgrading its powers and going against a demon lord trying to save a princess. Advancing across the map, trying to kill minions and getting new magic and weapons as you go. I mean, it's just kind of a cool, trimmed down, minimalistic style game that the Japanese are known for putting out in that sense. So it's really got a lot of followers on the GameFound page already, all things considered. So I can see this being a surprise hit, and I'm really intrigued. Again, as a non-solo player, this one actually is up my alley, because if you know anything about me on this channel, I am a sucker. I have a blind spot for some of these Japanese games. Just got one in the mail today. And so we'll kind of see what this one entails, but I can see myself going for this one as well. Again, as a non-solo player, I did that with the most recent Chip Theory game as well, 20 Strong. And so we'll see, because I'm kind of hoping 20 Strong gets a cooperative version in one of the next expansions. But, you know, I risked it, so we'll see. We'll see. Also, another interesting test in the market, we're going to go to one of the top 30. Did you know this is in the top 30? Because, again, Board Game Geek skews heavily, especially on the rating side of things. But in the top 100, if you ever looked at the top 100, that's a whole nother different argument. Although people are going to fight me in the comment section. It's not weighted. It is. Selection bias. Totally. Barrage ranked the 35th game overall on Board Game Geek, which is crazy to me. As a weight of over 4 and a playtime, it says only of 1 to 2 hours, but it's apparently one of the most cutthroat Euro style games out there potentially. And so for some reason, Carino Creations is bringing this one back to crowdfunding over retail, and we're going to see what they offer not only in one expansion but 2 expansions. One expansion is going to be a 2-player expansion, as sort of just a 2-player mode, and the other is going to be an actual expansion adding some new content. And essentially what it is apparently it's a whole new map altogether. And you're going to be trying to master the Colorado River and the dam and the electricity that can produce compared to the base game in the first place. Again, no clue what to expect, no clue what this is going to raise, but I'd say that this is a heavy overlap with those Lacerda junkies out there in the first place that are going after everything Eagle Griffin puts out on crowdfunding as well. So, you can tell me that I'm wrong in the comment section, but you probably know that I'm right. What else we got going on? We have 2 iterations of games that are coming out from companies that have put out successful first campaigns as well. One is a sequel reprint to a light worker placement style with machine robots with cute miniatures called Transmissions. And you've got basically these pipes that are going across, and there's going to be a reprint of it because they did like little metal miniatures and then they did the plastic ones, and they never really got a retail release. And people seem to like it as a lighter style worker placement game. And the second one that's going to go up with that is not really a reprint. And speaking of transmissions, I'm not really sure if there's going to be more content. I believe there are going to be expansions that go along with that, but not a whole lot of details right now at the time. But we're also going to see from the makers of ICE, we're getting the new game set in the same world, Founders. And the original game was more of a worker placement where you're digging through these tiles, and they made this innovative bowl board where you're removing the tiles and digging down and having to do your worker placement, that style of things. This is more of a tile laying game set in the same realm. And it's sort of got a between two cities sort of vibe because a person on each side is actually going to be sharing a hidden objective. And so how well you do in the objectives with the person next to you is going to determine how well you do overall at the end game. And so we're going to see what this one entails as well, because again, ICE was sort of one of those where they had some delays, they had some issues. They ran a second campaign to get a little more funding and get a few more copies. And so we're going to see what they offer because again, as well, ICE had more of the deluxifications. They had art prints offered as the reason to get it on crowdfunding, not necessarily exclusives or price point content. So we're going to see what this one entails, especially as a tiling game. And if you call it innovative, I want to see what's actually innovative about it. So get your popcorn, like I said, right? A few other quick hits here. Again, staying with the more in the same world, Gray Fox Games finally announced that they're going to be launching a dual campaign for things set in the world of Midgard, literally the world of Midgard, Clans of Midgard, as well as Reavers, the card game. That's going to be coming at the beginning of this month. And Gray Fox Games, again, kind of had some, production issues with some of this other stuff, and sometimes not exactly getting what they were promised. And so I think with Ragnaroks, there was a little bit of that as well. And people weren't necessarily as fully happy with the end product. I mean, I have a copy of Ragnaroks. I have no clue what I'm going to do with it. And I say that as an abstract lover. It was just sort of... I don't know. It just didn't match what I thought it was going to be. And so I sort of regret backing it. But again, I know a lot of people love the Midgard series from them. And that's going to be the interesting test point of 2 different games now set in that universe, 2 completely different games in the same campaign. Reavers the card game is going to give you the same set of cards that you're going to start off with, but also using a set collection as well as secret deployment mechanism that you're going to be slowly revealing simultaneously. And you go to the spots where no one else is present and you're going to get a better bonus. And if other people go there, then you're going to have to negotiate with each other to try and figure out who's going to get what. There's no details on World of Midgard yet on Board Game Geek, so we'll kind of see what that one entails when it goes live as well. And next up, we're going to talk about 2 asymmetric duelists here at the end. One, well, I've talked about both of them in the past, actually. Both of them are in my collection right now currently. First one is Button Shy Games' Battlecrest. Battlecrest is getting a season 2, and so it's going to be $12, and it's going to get you, I think, 1 or 2 new characters. I believe there's a solo and at least a competitive mode in the first time around, and so this is going to just offer you a little bit more content, and to be frank, that game could use a little more content. Now, again, I will say, sometimes the Button Shy rulebooks tend to be a little bit sparse, sort of like Exceed. There's a few edge cases that always just, fail to fall in those rulebooks, and, I never like saying that. At the same time, it's a solid game, and it uses a card-based spacing mechanism that's really kind of unique, and you have to maneuver around this, and the way you flip the cards, when you use the cards, you have to flip them over the other side, and you have 3 or 4 cards in front of you, and which combination of which sides are in front of you are going to determine how you can actually take your actions and what you can do in your turn as you battle against either the AI or your opponent. So that's going to be a really, interesting game. That's my ilk, right? And the other one is going to be season 3 from Ivion, which is the other mage dueling deck, not really construction game, but a little bit heavier emphasis on the deck portion of things as you go out and you plan. And they've done sort of a thematic incorporation with the other seasons. I believe there was the winter season, which was the last one. And so we're going to see what this one entails. I believe it's in the process of being delivered right now to backers of season 2. I'm not quite familiar with where it is offhand exactly, but again, core following, very solid game, a little bit higher complexity overall comparatively, especially with a little bit higher meta to get into it. And it has more of a 3D grid as opposed to a lot of the other head-to-head duelers in that sense. So there's more spatial arrangement. The only thing I can really compare it to offhand is like Senjutsu, the upcoming game that's going to be released and going to be coming to backers of their crowdfunding campaign in the same sense very shortly. So that's it. That is a ton of games, and I didn't even mention a couple that I could have mentioned that have been also out there as well. Canopy, the card laying set collection, build your own rainforest style game is getting an expansion, as well as the Shivers. I believe it's the stand-up scenario based pop-up game that's getting an expansion in addition. And then we're also going to have a couple others like Vigilante, another in the Vigilante series called Hidden Motives, as well as another game in terms of trick taking called Trick Takers, the Japanese game that is finally getting a reprint from, I believe it's the Portland Collective or something along those lines. I always forget their name, in combination with another trick taking game called Haggis. And yeah, Haggis. So that's a lot of games, folks. And I talked really fast so I could get through them as quick as possible, but you can see why I'm so pumped about this month. Right? It's going to be an awesome month. It's going to be an awesome month. I just can't wait to do the roundups and break down these games and let you know my thoughts as well. So if you somehow made it this far in the video and you aren't subscribed to me, please do. I would love it. I'm still trying to hit 10K by the end of the year. It's not going to happen, but it's a pipe dream. And you know what? Small guys like me can dream big. So as always, let me know what you're interested in. Let me know what you're not interested in. Let me know what you want to see. And like I said, I'll have a couple of those games talking about them on the channel in a little bit. So tune in for more if you're not already. That's all I got. Patreon me, baby. I got that too. Stay classy. Have a great freaking day. Love you guys. Peace out.